I am a part-time magician. Would you like to see a magic trick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are those black balloons in there?
Welcome to Blood and Donuts. I am Tony.
And I'm Chris. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Yeah, thanks for coming, y'all. We want to thank everyone who has subscribed to us on Apple Podcast and Spotify. And, of course, the people watching and subscribing on YouTube. We are just blown away by the support that we have received in such a short amount of time. We love making this podcast, but when you tune in and we see that people are listening and subscribing, it makes it that much better. Mm-hmm. For those of you just joining us, Chris and I, we've been friends for over 25 years. Back in middle school, our parents would take us to the local rental store. We would pick up some B horror, slasher horror, classic horror films, you name it. We'd stay up to the wee hours of the morning. And that week at school, we would have inside jokes and quotes, and we would also give our very humble opinions to each other. And we wanted to somehow recreate that as adults. And that's what you're listening to today, the Blood and Donuts podcast. We upload a new episode every Saturday. So make Saturday. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss anything.
That's right. And give a share too. If you like what you're listening to, give a share. And, we like feedback too. We take it good or bad. It just helps us grow. And, we're just learning here. We're just kind of goofing around and doing stuff we like, but give us some tips, some movie suggestions. Let us know what you think.
Absolutely, we'd love that. All right, so this show, we start by sharing some facts and an overview, and then we go into our rating. Chris will give his, and I will give mine, and then after that, we will go scene by scene with spoilers. But we will let you know when we head into spoilers. And Chris, let them know how that rating system works.
Sure. So we alternate our movie choices here. This one is mine, and whoever picked the movie goes first. And we're both in the dark on each other's opinions. So we don't know what each other's thinking right now. And we rank our movies from 1 through 13. At 1 through 4 it's not a good movie. Don't go out of your way or spend any money on this. It's not even worth a watch. 5 through 8 is kind of like a mid-tier. It's worth a rent if you have time. It's not terrible, but it's also not elite. 9 through 12 is worth a view. Rent it if you need to, but definitely go watch this movie if it's a 9 through 12. And 13 is our Baker's Dozen tier, which is a masterpiece and would be considered one of the best or most influential movies of all time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Black Phone from 2021, an American supernatural horror film directed by Scott Derrickson, written by Derrickson, and C. Robert Cargill is what I have, or Cargill. Mm-hmm. Hopefully I said that right. They both produced this with Jason Blum. We're seeing a lot of Blumhouse productions doing movies lately. Five Nights at Freddy's, Exorcist Believer. They did Halloween and Halloween Kills. Blum, mm-hmm. I didn't realize. I had to Google. I keep seeing Blum everywhere, and I just wanted to see what all they're a part of. They have a huge catalog.
Yeah, it's a lot. And these guys that worked on this movie, they also did Sinister. Oh yeah, I think, and the Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Yeah. Derrickson did Sinister, and and like I said, Blumhouse is all over The Exorcist. The Exorcist of Emily Rose. I love that film. There's a lot of people that hate it. I think it's a very good. I think it's a lot better than Exorcist Believer. I like The Exorcist of Emily Rose. I think it's underrated.
I've never seen it, but I already like it more than The Exorcist Believer. So
that didn't take much. If you ever go back and watch that episode, we weren't big fans of Exorcist Believer.
Not at all.
Oh my goodness. Black Phone. Finney Blake is a shy but clever 13-year-old boy. He's abducted by a sadistic killer and trapped in a soundproof basement where screaming is of no use. When a disconnected phone on the wall begins to ring, Finney discovers that he can hear the voices of the killer's previous victims, and they are dead set on making sure that what happened to them doesn't happen to Finney.
Dead set.
Dead set.
Right. They're dead set on it. Okay.
Oh my goodness! So this film has a bit of a paranormal aspect to it, which was surprising to me. I didn't watch anything on it. I didn't watch no trailers. I didn't watch any of the read any introductions. Just put it in, watched it, and when I saw the supernatural aspects of it, it surprised me a little bit. What did you think about those aspects?
So yeah, and that's interesting too, because it starts out with kind of like the kidnapping trope and missing persons, things like that. It's set in the late 70s. And I thought the cinematographer did a great job.
I love that.
But,
I love that setting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And this film was written in 6 weeks, but the film was only shot in 30 days.
Dang.
So that's interesting. But yeah, a very cool trope with the supernatural. I liked those elements, and it wasn't overpowering either. It was just kind of sprinkled throughout,
I think they did a good I like how they did it. It was very creative in that aspect. This film it's very different from any that I've watched that I can think of. I can't really compare it to anything.
Right. Yeah, I had it's unique. It's not it's I don't remember seeing a movie like that before. And this was actually based off of a short horror story written by Joe Hill, who is Stephen King's son.
Look at that. What do you know?
Hey, you see Stephen King throughout this whole movie though, right?
It's very Stephen King. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. You got the yellow jacket later in the film where she's like driving her bike through the rain.
Yep. This was set in the 70s. I love that setting. When you have like a crime, especially around like children and people dying and stuff, nowadays we have DNA evidence. So I feel like they kind of like, they capture you pretty quick, but back in the 70s, you could murder somebody and you might not get caught for 20, 30 years,
Right. Yeah. And you, that's a good point. And in the 70s, everybody had a nickname.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This one,
is the Grabber.
The Grabber. I like that game too. I mean, I like that name too. The masks that they use throughout this movie they're really good too.
It's really cool because, and it just switches like the bottom mouthpiece kind of, you could switch it out for different emotions.
Oh man.
I think there was like 3 total. That was pretty cool.
And Ethan Hawke, big fan of Ethan Hawke. I love Dead Poet Society. I love Alive, where the plane goes down in the Alps. So I haven't seen Ethan Hawke. I can't remember other than that like film that he like filmed for many, many years. I don't know if you saw that where the kids like grew with the film.
I didn't see that.
Other than that, I haven't seen much of him. So to see him do this, and he didn't show his face a whole bunch, which I think is, for a big name actor, is pretty admirable, huh?
Admirable.
Right. Yeah. And he didn't want to be a bad guy. He's never really like a villain in any of his movies.
Yeah.
And I was watching an interview earlier and he was like, I'm 51, so I might as well come over to the dark side. So I thought he nailed it.
Yeah, he nailed it.
There weren't a lot of long dialogues with him, but it was very creepy. I mean, he knocked it out of the park for me. And even the kid actors did a really good job.
The day-to-day, you're like, okay. But when emotion has to come, like there's a scene where the little girl, the sister, is getting whipped by a belt. I'm not going to go into any of that, but she just reprimanded. But the way she's crying and bringing that emotion, and she's like pissed off at the same time, I was just like, whoa, okay,
yeah,
man,
oh yeah.
So like, she killed that
it too. And the little girl too, where she added that line. She said, "My dreams are just dreams." Like that was not in the script.
Oh,
she said that up on the spot. And the director was like, "That's my favorite part of the movie." Yeah. Like she killed it.
Yeah. Again, I didn't know this was child actors. When going into this, I didn't know we were going to have child actors. I didn't know it was set in the 70s. It was all very surprising to me, and I enjoyed it. Derrickson grew up in North Denver during the 1970s, and those details and others are personal touches that he brought to this film. While many are light memories, he acknowledges that he spent the past 5 years in therapy dealing with the events of his own childhood. Ooh.
Wow.
Derrickson's hope. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, back on the kid actors too. That's a risky play, right?
It really is.
They have to be really good, and these two were, I thought.
Yeah, they did great. Derrickson's hope with The Black Phone was to make a scary movie about dark subjects that was still inspiring, that still had a loving point of view in it. He speaks highly of both Mason Thames and Madeline McGraw, who play the siblings Finney and Gwen, respectively. He actually pushed the film's start date by 4 months to accommodate McGraw's Disney schedule.
Nice. What was she in for Disney?
I have no
I
idea.
didn't read that.
Couldn't tell you.
Interesting.
Not a big Disney watcher now that I'm 38 years old, so I couldn't tell you. The boys don't have it either. I don't even pay for cable, so we watch a lot of YouTube or we stream stuff. Do you still have cable?
No, not at all. I haven't had cable for like 10 plus years.
Yeah. The only thing that I miss are like football games. I have to find them, or I have to go to like Toots, order wings, and watch football games. While this movie is set in Colorado, the film was shot in North Carolina. The clothes, a general look of the decade through a nostalgic lens. His goal here was to capture the feel, the way the late 70s felt to him as a kid. Let's see. Derrickson believes in ghosts because millions of people claim to have seen them, and he trusts that as evidence. Interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Finney's conversations with the dead kids on the phone were shot with Thames actually speaking to those other actors on the phone. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, they had a phone through the wall. So behind the scenes, they had like an old, pickup phone, like an old push button. And when you picked up that phone, it rang in the action room, if you will, or in the basement. And so, yeah, he was like literally talking to them. So that's a good use there too, because I mean, with child actors, you kind of, you'd have to really act your heart out if you weren't really talking to somebody who wasn't there. So it's a good use. Practical there.
I think so too. This film was a huge success. Let's see, it was theatrically released by Universal Pictures and June 24th, 2022. The film grossed $161 million.
Nice.
Very impressive. On IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes, 81% of critics enjoyed this film and 88% of audiences enjoyed this film. IMDb lost a couple points. It goes 6.9 out of 10 for this one.
Yeah, and it's seeing the ratings like that, you kind of you're expecting a good movie. Unlike a few we've watched, so I kind of went into this with high hopes. And like you, I didn't see anything prior. I think I might have watched the trailer, but that was about it.
Yeah. So when you see Ethan Hawke in that top hat and that mask on the cover of. That's all you need. They didn't show anything else. That's all you need. And you're just like, yeah, okay. This looks like a good film. I'll watch it. Mm-hmm. How about the Pink Floyd? I know you're a big Pink Floyd fan. So how about, I put that in my notes. Chris and I both. Love some Pink Floyd. So when it played that, I was like, did my music just pop on or something? It played like it played for what, a minute and a half?
Yeah, through like a nice big montage. And I was telling Jessica, I was like, oh my gosh, I never thought I would hear this song in a movie.
Yeah, and I was like, I bet Chris, I bet that earned some points with Chris right there.
Definitely isn't one of my pros here.
It was Ethan Hawke's idea to have the grabber react with panic when Finney removes his mask.
We talked about this before, where the director and all they kind of listen to their cast. So if a cast member has a great idea, I mean, they implemented it. And then I thought both of those were very good ideas there for the end.
Absolutely. Chris, do you want to give your rating for this film? What did you think about it?
Yeah, and I have a few spoiler facts, but I'll wait till we get to the end of our synopsis there.
Absolutely.
So I'll get into my pros and cons. Pros, good acting, especially with the kids in Grabber. We talked about that. There was good pacing. I wasn't bored at all when I was watching this. I was kind of always just anticipating the next thing. So I thought it was very cool. Original story with the phone, that was very cool. And, I hate cops in movies, but these cops did not get in the way of our protagonists, and they didn't ruin anything. So that's always a good plus for me.
That's huge.
My favorite scene was the ghost call with the Vance kid. I thought that was really well done. The cons, this is a mild spoiler, but I was confused by the character Max. There was a tunnel to nowhere that had no closure, and I wanted more bad guy details. I wanted to know more about the grabber. You know what I mean? Like, I thought you could have eliminated the Max character and fleshed out our grabber character a little bit more. And the worst scene for me, you know, it was hard to watch the little girl getting beat.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this a 10 out of 13 donuts. It's definitely worth the rent right now. If you have Peacock, it's on there. So go check it out. I really enjoyed it. 10 out of 13 for me.
This is, I agree. This is one of the best films that we have reviewed on this podcast. And I wish I had a much differing opinion. A lot of times our opinions are very aligned. But again, I enjoyed this film. I thought Ethan Hawke did great. The child actors were great. I love the 1970s setting. This film, it was different. The story was different. I thought it was a great movie. I didn't think, like, a lot of times you're just like, oh, this is a great horror film. This is just a great movie. It has a good ending. It has good resolve. So my negatives there is, with true horror, it is my belief that there cannot be resolve. So I feel like in a true horror film, and this being a horror podcast, I feel like this had too much good ending to it. So, I mean, there's definitely an arc of where he's making headway, and then there's an ending, and there's a hero, and he triumphs, and then he walks. I'm not going to, spoil it, but it's a good, happy ending where I would argue, just to play devil's advocate here, that like a movie like Evil Dead or Halloween or those classics, even The Exorcist, they have a good ending, but is it truly over is the question. And this one, it seems like that answers the question. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 13 donuts. I think this is a great film. Everybody should go to watch this. Yeah, I think it's awesome. It's not real gory either.
Right. No, it's not gory. It's, and most of the deaths, if you will, are off camera. You know, you don't see it, or you kind of know what's happening when it fades to black.
Yes. Yeah. So it's very creative in that way. And that's why I say this is a great movie. Not necessarily, I wouldn't say this is a horror, just like gory horror bloodfest. You can actually probably watch this with your wife and just sit back and enjoy this from start to finish.
Cool.
All right,
That's
y'all.
good.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, I know with I might have spoiled a little bit with some of those facts there that I slipped in. But if you haven't seen this, we're about to go scene by scene and spoil it. I watched it free. I guess it's not free because it's a subscription service, but I watched it on Peacock.
Yep.
All right, let's delve into this. Black Phone 2021. In 1978, a serial child abductor, nicknamed the Grabber, prowls the streets of Denver suburbs. Siblings Finney and Gwen Blake live in the area with their abusive, alcoholic father. At school, Finney is frequently bullied and harassed. He has a friendship with a classmate named Robin, who fends off the bullies.
And this is an interesting dynamic. I guess it was different back in the late 70s, but usually the popular athlete, right?
Yeah.
Usually they're the bully.
Yeah.
In other movies, but this is just like, he's like a star baseball player. I mean, he lost a game here, but then he just gets whooped. I thought they were just going to beat him up because he lost the game for him, but this just turns out to be like a daily routine for this poor kid.
Yeah. So seeing the bullies and stuff, that was a little rough. Finney and Gwen's dad, he's like a redneck alcoholic, and he's there, and they have to kind of like tiptoe. They're kind of like on eggshells. They're at the breakfast table. That's where it opens up, and like I forget what he did, but he made too loud of a noise.
He was slurping cereal.
Oh yeah,
cereal.
And the dad was like, "Can you slurp any louder?"
You think you can slurp that any louder?
Yeah.
And then the girl comes in and like drops the lid on the bread box.
Yes.
Sorry, Daddy.
The way he talks is like this quiet, like drunkenness. Like, do you think you can slurp that? I don't even know how to explain it. It's hilarious. I like.
That's a very good drunk voice you got.
It's
there.
it's very good. But anyway, it's sad these kids have to live like this, but it's cool because they both have each other, and the film does a very good job of establishing that these two look out for each other. They have, and even when she goes to spend the night at like a friend's house, he's like, "Well, I'm gonna go take care of Dad tonight." You know, so they love their dad, and they have respect for him, even though he is toxic and he has a lot of issues and stuff. They love their dad, and they have each other, and they're thankful for that. You could tell.
Yeah, and in late 70s, you're not. I mean, you're worried about certain things, but you weren't just. It was just commonplace to let your little sister go to her friend's house without walking her there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like they're just like, see you later, and they just split up in the neighborhood, and they're gone. No worry, no care in the world.
Yeah. And that's the truth. And when I was watching that, I was thinking that same thing. I was like, my kids kind of are going to miss out on that because, but this film, when you think of the 1970s, you think that it was a better time and a better place. But what this film does is it shines a light. It's like, well, it wasn't actually that perfect. Parents were a little bit more hardcore. Bullying was kind of it wasn't frowned upon as much. It was almost like a part of everybody gets into fights and everybody has a bully. You got to stand up for yourself. It was kind of like you're kind of everybody was like on their own in a way. So it shows that the 1970s weren't exactly it wasn't exactly better.
Yeah, no, they did a good job of illustrating that.
Yeah, and so this classmate Robin, who is this? Robin is like
a kickboxer or something.
Man, dude was awesome. He was just like they walk up and Robin's like beating up this bully, and like he gets him to the ground and he starts punching him and wailing on him, and there's so much blood like coming like on this bully's nose and everything, and you're just like, maybe Robin's the bully here.
Right. It looked like he was going to go for like some kind of finishing move, and then he thought better of it because he didn't want to have a murder charge on his hands.
Yeah, that's true. But like you said, Finney is he's on a little league baseball team, and Finney his arm is mint. He's a good. He's a good pitcher. They Bruce, who's this kid of Asian descent, who is on the other team, and I'm just doing that because there's so many children in this film, so it's hard to differentiate who Bruce is and all this stuff. But Bruce went up against Finney, and Finney got 2 strikes on him, and then finally Bruce hit it out of the park, and Finney kind of lost the game, like Chris was saying. But Bruce was a good guy and a good sport, and he walked up to Finney. He said, "Hey, you're a good pitcher, and your arm is mint."
And he said that a few times.
Yeah.
Later on.
Yeah,
but
it'll echo throughout that your arm is mint. A boy from another school that Finney knew, Bruce, is abducted by the grabber. Gwen, who has psychic dreams much like her late mother, dreams of Bruce's kidnapping and sees that he was taken by a man in a black van with black balloons. Detectives Wright and Miller interview Gwen, but they struggle to believe her claims. The grabber abducts Robin, as well as Finney, days later.
They don't.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, they don't talk about the beating scene here. It's great acting, but it was hard to watch.
Yeah.
The line, like I said earlier, "My dreams are just dreams," was not in the script. So Madeline McGraw, who played Gwen, just added that ad lib. Again, I'm a fan of these cops, but they're almost they're like the weakest actors in this whole thing. Right, like the good cop, bad cop routine was like forced in the beginning. You're like, okay, I get it. Like, and then the mouth on that girl is hilarious too. She calls them like effing fart knockers.
Hilarious. She goes, "You effing fart knockers," and the principal just goes, "Gwenny, stop that." But Gwenny gets a nice butt whooping from Dad. And I don't know if this is in there, but she gets home, and apparently these detectives went to Gwen's dad's work and started asking questions, and he didn't like that, so he started beating her. And then later we find out that Gwen's mother had psychic abilities, and she ended up taking her life, right, Chris?
Yeah, and that's a little bit of the Stephen King element there, like The Shine or whatever.
Yeah.
Like psychic powers that are just unexplained,
Yeah.
but they're just there to kind of help move the plot along, which I didn't think it hurt anything. We didn't get any closure on that, but I thought it was needed, but it was okay with me.
I agree. I think it was needed. I think you would absolutely hate the dad, and you still hate him, and you still know he's wrong. But at the same time, you're like, he's just scared. He doesn't want to lose his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But a little excessive force in the beginning, but there's later scenes where he's explaining it better and you're like, okay, that's why he's so just, against whatever she's doing.
Absolutely. So Finney knew that Gwen had seen black balloons in her dream. Because when he's getting kidnapped, I remember he says that he like walks up on this van. He says, is that black balloons in the back of that van? And then the grabber just kind of takes him. Didn't Ethan Hawke say something about like a magic trick or something like that?
He might have, yeah. He's like spraying this crap in his mouth. Like
my goodness.
Yes. I guess it's a sleep spray or something.
Yeah.
I need some of that for me.
Does it work that good?
So I can get to sleep earlier, man.
Finney awakens in a soundproof basement. On the wall is a disconnected black rotary phone that the grabber says does not work. Later, Finney hears the phone ring, and he answers it. Bruce's ghost, unable to remember his own name or who he was when he was alive, tells Finney about a floor tile that he can remove to a dug tunnel that to escape. One that Bruce, I guess, started when he was in there.
Yeah, and I guess, that's where there's no closure there. He's like digging this tunnel. It shows him flushing the dirt down, which I'm like, okay, this kid's on the way out and we're going to kind of progress. But as you know, he's not getting out of there anytime soon. So there's really no closure on that. And I did like the ghost dynamic that they only remembered a few things. Yeah. He's like, I don't know a lot, but I know that your arm was mint and I know that you almost had me. Things like that. I thought that was a cool aspect where the ghost just doesn't know everything, but they only know certain things that help this kid out.
Right. So up until this point, this movie is pretty straight laced. It's just it just is, and then you get that paranormal aspect to it, and you're like, oh, so they're bringing that in. Mm-hmm. So at first, I was taken aback. I was like, okay, this is going to be a little goofy. But the more that it progressed and I saw where it was going, I felt okay with it. It was like you said, they didn't reveal a whole. The kid, he wasn't like, my name is Bruce, and I lit the. He didn't know a lot about himself, mm-hmm. And it was funny. Like the guys, these kids that were taken by the grabber, typically they were very tough children who stood up for themselves.
Yeah. Now that you say that, back. With the punk rock kid, I think his name was Vance. Yeah, I liked his little ghost character the best. But you're right. And tough.
And Robin as well. Finney's chased through the hallways by some bullies at one point, mm-hmm. and Robin, and he's about to get beat up pretty bad. There's like 2 or 3 of them about to gang up on him, and Robin walks in and says, "What's going on? How about you leave Finney alone?" This was after he just beat the crap out of that guy right in front of the school, and his knuckles are still like bloody, and mm-hmm. Those guys, they ran off. He said, "Don't mess with Finney again." But as soon as Robin got taken, they went and messed and beat the crap out of Finney.
Yeah, they sure did.
But so Bruce gets on the phone and talks to Finney and says, "Hey, there's a tunnel to escape," and points him in that direction. The police search for Finney, and it's unsuccessful. The grabber brings Finney's food and leaves the door to the basement unlocked. Finney prepares to sneak out, but is stopped by another phone call. It's a boy called Billy. He explains this is a game that the grabber is playing. He's waiting upstairs, ready to beat you, Finney, with a belt as soon as you leave the basement. That was good.
Hey, the jump scare actually got me there.
Yes.
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, geez. And the ghost definitely saved him because we all would have tried to taken that out. Right?
Oh, my goodness.
He's like, this dummy left the door open for me. I'm out the door. See ya.
Yeah. And when it pans across it's up the stairs, and it pans across over to past the wall, and you see Ethan Hawke sitting there without a shirt on,
Right.
and that mask.
Hey, he's been grabbing them dumbbells.
Oh man, he's looking swole. He's like 50, 60 years old, looking just swole. It made me want to go to the gym. But he's holding a belt, and the grabber has like that devil mask on, but this time it's like frowning.
Yeah.
So
it's
it's like, so it's supposed to when Finney would walk up there, it would say, look what you did. Now you made the grabber sad, Naughty. It was just naughty. Ooh. So the grabber has these games that you have to play, and he wears these masks that help him to dole out his punishment for you acting naughty during his games, which is a creepy thought, Yeah,
and that's why I wanted more grabber lore. I wanted to know, why was he like that, or why could he hear the phone ring? Right, because he could hear the phone as well, but he never picked it up because he was too creeped out or something like that.
Yeah,
one of the ghosts said that or something like that.
I do.
He hears it too, but he doesn't pick it up.
Yeah.
So I wanted more grabber lore.
So in a way, I guess they were alluding to the fact that the grabber is he's troubled, obviously, but he thinks he hears things, but he thinks they're just along with probably like the voices and the other things that he hears in his head. So he ignores the phone ringing. Billy instructs him to use a cord that Billy found to get out via the basement window. While climbing, Finney breaks the bars on the window, preventing him from climbing back up. Gwen dreams of Billy being abducted and confides in her father about what is happening.
It's a risky play there, Gwen.
Yeah. So that cord and like him getting it around those bars and stuff, and he starts climbing that grate that is covering that window. And I didn't know what the plan was when we got to the top of that.
I didn't either. I guess he, he was going to just unlock the window and maybe just let some sound out. And this whole time you remember that Metallica video, The Unforgiven, where the guy gets trapped in the sewer or something and he can't get out and he grows old in the sewer or something. I was thinking that the whole time I was watching that scene. I was like, this is like Metallica.
I like
Metallica
that
music video.
I like that. I guess I didn't get that when the grate fell that it was over. I thought I was like, oh, good. He got the grate off. Now we can break the window. Like that's, I don't know.
Well, now he just can't climb back up there because the grate is gone. It took his leverage away.
Yeah.
But
I understand it now, but I didn't see it at the time. Yeah.
I would have just used the rug to climb up there, right? You could prop up the rug and maybe shimmy up that to get back to the window. Who knows? Come on, Ben.
He explains that this is just a game that the grabber is playing, and that he's waiting upstairs to attack Finney with a belt. Oh, that was earlier. So Billy instructs. Sorry about that. Billy instructs to use the cord, and that grate falls. Let's see. Finney breaks the bars on the window. We got there. Billy being abducted and confides in his father about what is happening. That was what Gwen's dreams. Okay.
You're good. I'll cut it out.
Wright and Miller speak to an eccentric man called Max, who is staying in the area with his brother. It is revealed that Finney is being held in Max's basement, which he is unaware of, and that the grabber is his brother. After an agitated exchange with the grabber, where he tests Finney's honesty, he makes it seem as if he would have let Finney go.
I think this is the weakest part of the movie for me, where it would have put the movie over the top for me and maybe earned it a bigger score. If we've gotten rid of this Max character, like he's so dense and he's just like, he looks like a conspiracy theory guy. He's like, oh, well, if the grabber's here, he's going to be in one of these locations or something. But then he's just like was shown to be doing cocaine, so the police don't believe him. But like this other guy, the grabber is literally in his house doing these kidnapping and sitting in the kitchen without a shirt off with a creepy mask. And like, you didn't see any of that crap, dude?
I thought,
come on.
And I thought that Max was at the house across the street, the brother, doing cocaine. And I thought the dead kids were buried in his house.
Maybe you're right. Maybe
I might be wrong. I might be wrong. I don't know. So Gwen is seeing, and I know I kind of realize why they put this in here, because Gwen is seeing this house. She's seeing it in her dreams, and the cops are going. But there's two identical houses across from each other. One for Ethan Hawke, one for his brother. I'm assuming, because I was reading it later. It said one was an abandoned house. You know what I mean? So I don't know. So I don't know if they're both living it. It doesn't explain that. You are right. And when they go into Max's house, the detectives, Max is like, "Come on in here. Look at this." And Max has a poster up, and looks like he is just going crazy. He's seeing all these abductions, and he's wanting to solve it. And he doesn't realize that it's his brother doing this stuff. But the detectives are like, "All right, you're just a crazy dude. And by the way, you got cocaine right there on your table. So do a little bit better next time of cleaning up." So and then he does allude at some point. Ethan Hawke alludes to the fact that or maybe it's told into like a dream, or maybe one of the kids say it, that like, I don't have much time until my brother finds out.
Well, it's confusing because it shows Max, and then the camera pans down, and it's in the basement. So it makes you think it's the same house. And
you're probably thinking, okay. You're right.
How?
So maybe you're right. So maybe they live in that house together, and then the other house is abandoned and has the dead bodies in the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, Max is just an idiot then. And
maybe Finney, Finney should have known that he would have been in the paper by then, because he's smart kind of up to that point. But I think that if he had, by letting him go, I think the grabber would have just killed him.
I don't think it explained the paper thing. So
yeah, he's he's asking him his name, and then Finney lies to him, and then the grabber holds up the newspaper, and he's like, "Yeah, that's not your name," and he throws it at him.
Yeah,
and he's like, "I would have let you go if you told me the truth."
Yeah,
I feel like if he did tell him the truth, I think he might have just killed him there.
Oh, so definitely.
Who knows?
Yeah, he messed with him right there, and he kind of
definitely not letting him go.
He took his food and threw it too. I thought that was very mean of him.
Yeah, he had to scrape Shoney's eggs off the floor. I was like, hey, I told Jessica when we were watching, I was like, that looks like Shoney's eggs right there.
That looked like Shoney's eggs. And off that dirty floor, gosh.
Right? It's just like eating a Shoney's, man.
Oh, he was. That's called flavor. I love Shoney's. Don't say that. Finney speaks to another one of his victims, Griffin, on the phone. Griffin shows Finney a combination to a lock and informs him that the grabber has fallen asleep upstairs. Finney sneaks upstairs and unlocks the door, but the grabber's dog alerts him of Finney's escape. This is like one of the most anxious scenes.
Very tense.
Yeah, so apparently this kid who was grabbed by the grabber and killed many years ago, the grabber had his combination lock and actually used it on the door. And so this kid kind of instructs Finney like, "Hey, I have the combination. I don't know where it is, but I wrote it down on the wall in there somewhere." So Finney finds the combination, but then again, he has to say, "Is it 53 or is it 53?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the kid
is it 23 or is it 223?
Yeah, and
it's a different. It could be 3 or 4 different combinations, right. So he has to kind of figure that out.
And the kid's like, "I don't know. You're just gonna have to try them all, but be very quiet." So he does sneak upstairs, and there's Ethan Hawke asleep with the belt and the mask on in the chair, and then Finney has to like sneak by him, and then he does all 3 of those combinations. Finally opens the door. The dog barks, and you see Finney run in the middle of the street. Wouldn't you like hide?
Yeah, I was thinking run behind a house, like cut through. If dude's in a van, you need to be cutting through a yard, a backyard.
I was so frustrated. I was yelling. I was like, no. He gets into the light running in the street, but I guess I don't know. I
mean, you got to have, some dumb moments by your protagonist, and that was one of them.
That's true.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, so Finney flees down the street in the middle of the street. So the van, I think Ethan Hawke uses the van to like hit him, right?
No, I think or did he hit him?
Yeah, I think he clips him a little bit and then goes and hits him.
He clipped him and then he gets out and he's like, "I'll gut you like a pig."
Yeah, if you say anything, if you yell, I'm gonna cut you. And there's this tense moments where he's like down on the ground with Finney. He's got the knife at his neck, and there's two porch lights that came on. Like, what is that? And they sit there in silence for a minute, and then the lights go out. Despondent over his failed escape attempt, Finney answers the phone to hear another victim, a punk called Vance, whom Finney was scared of. He's such a punk, man. Vance informs Finney of a connecting storage room that he can escape through if he breaks a hole in the wall and exit through the freezer of the other side of the wall. Finney creates a hole with a toilet tank cover and enters the back of the freezer, only to discover that the freezer door is locked. The phone rings one more time with Robin at the other end of the line. So this is a cool scene. This punk kid, and it kind of shows Finney remembering that kid as well.
Yeah, I thought that was the most interesting dream sequence with this Vance kid. And I would have thought that, like we were talking about earlier, this kid looked like he could take the grabber, but
yeah.
If you see Ethan Hawke without a shirt on in the kitchen, maybe not. I mean, he was kind of ripped. So, and yeah, I was wondering kind of when Robin was going to call, because that's like, you knew that call was coming, but like, I guess they saved the best for last. And I did, and you're going to talk about it here in a second, but where I loved and hated this scene with Robin. I like how Robin kind of faded away into the background after he was done talking. Did you notice that? That looked really cool.
I would have to go back and look at it.
Well, it was cool. He was like walking behind him, and then he's like, use what we taught you, man. Good luck. And then he kind of fades into the wall. But then the repetitiveness of teaching him the phone move.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, okay, wrap it up.
Yeah.
It was like 10 times.
Like a montage of like dun 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 dun. It was like a Rocky, a Rocky.
They should have made it a montage instead of just 5 minutes of Finney showing him how to do it.
Yeah. I like Robin's on the other line. He comforts Finney and he encourages him to finally stand up and fight for himself. He instructs Finney to remove the phone receiver, pack it with dirt that he dug up to use as a weapon. Gwen's dreams of Vance's abduction and discovers the property of the grabber. She finds the house and contacts Wright and Miller. Max realizes that Finney is being held in the house and rushes to the basement to free him.
So there it is. He was held in the house. How did you not know, Max?
Yeah, Max should have known that. Max
dynamic.
is an idiot. And they kind of spring Max on you, like towards the end of the film. Is it mid-film? Yeah, maybe mid.
Well, they introduce him in the mid-film, and then he's... and when the camera panned down, I looked over and I was like, is he in the same house?
Yeah.
And then it's like it's explained that it's his brother, and I'm like, that part really just felt rushed. And like, they didn't need to add him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I get it. I do like, and back to Robin and back to Vance as well. These kids, and even Bruce, these kids, those three especially, were really tough kids, like you said, that looked like they could have taken the grabber. Finney, in retrospect, was very skinny. He ran from his bullies. He got beat up a lot. He didn't stand up to his dad when I remember when his sister was getting beaten, and he just sat there and kind of watched, which I probably would have too. But he just you could tell
you don't want to catch a belt.
He was very pissed off. He wanted to say something to his dad, but he didn't. And and here at the end, you find like he's kind of becoming himself, and I guess that's why you're seeing it's these very tough guys that are like, you can do what we couldn't do, Finney.
Mm-hmm. It just takes more brains. Like, you can't just overpower him. You got to use, set up some traps and stuff like that.
Yeah. So Max he finally realizes that Finney's being held in the house, and he rushes down to the basement to free him. But his brother just kills him with an axe. That was a good jump scare too. And just like, you knew it was coming, because you're just like, ain't no way. They're just
this dunce Max is not going to save the day.
Yeah.
This ain't it.
The police rush to the house that Gwen found, but they find that it's empty. In the basement, they find the buried bodies of the grabber's victims. The grabber attacks Finney with the axe, but Finney manages to trip the grabber with the cord, causing him to fall into the tunnel that Finney dug, where the grabber breaks and traps his ankle in the window bars placed at the bottom. The ghosts taunt the grabber over the phone before Finney breaks his neck with the phone cord, killing him. Finney distracts the guard dog with meat from the freezer and then escapes the house using the combination that he learned. That was kind of like playing Maniac Mansion, wasn't it?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
And they rewrote the ending a couple of times. This was one of my facts I had.
Yeah.
Because you took the one where he fell into the hole and slid down, like that was Ethan Hawke's idea, like you said. But an earlier idea saw the ghost kids return as Finney killed the grabber, but the producer Derrickson thought it was a better idea of having him just listen to the ghosts on the phone.
Oh, I like that.
That makes total sense. You know, it's like kind of all coming to a close where he's forced to hear the phone that he didn't want to pick up and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was a good ending.
That was a great ending. And I loved how every kid that he talked to on that black phone, something that they added helped stop the killer. So you still have the cord. Maybe the cord failed in the window, but it tripped the grabber when he came down to the basement. Yep. You know what I mean? Maybe the hole never. The tunnel. Yeah, the tunnel didn't lead to salvation, but the tunnel did hold Ethan Hawke while he broke his neck with the phone. So I thought that was really cool.
And then his ankle.
And then the combination.
On the grate.
Yes. And then the combination lock. Yeah, he still had to use that at the end, which I was like, man, he didn't change it after that.
Just put a different kind of lock on there. It would be game over.
I think I would have. But and then the stakes from the back of that one tunnel as well for the dog. That was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that.
To get by him somehow.
I didn't like the afterlife for these kids. It seemed pretty bleak. So I didn't like that. I don't know. Like is it because their bodies are in the bottom of that basement, and maybe when these bodies are exhumed and they're at their final resting place, maybe these ghosts
there you go.
In this movie world will be released. But they kind of alluded to the fact that you're about to be where we are. You know.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna
go figure it out. Dude.
Don't worry, we're gonna see you soon, and we're gonna torture you type deal.
Mm-hmm.
Finney exits the house across the street from the grave sites where he reunites with Gwen, and the police rush to the property. The siblings comfort each other as their father arrives.
He's like apologizing and stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Like, and they're just kind of looking at each other like, "Heard that before."
That's true. When you see these two siblings reunite, this is a relationship that you wanted them to have together, because again, they both live a very hard life and they look out for each other. So when her brother was gone, you just felt, you're like, ugh, I hate that they're, you know what I mean? I hate that they're not together right now, because so when they're reunited, it feels so good. Reunited I'm sorry. All right, so they the dad tearfully apologized for his treatment of them. Back at school, a confident Finney sits next to his crush in class, and then she said, "What did he say there at the end?" He goes, "You can call me Finn.
Call me Finn.
Call me Finn."
Or she's like, "Hi, Finney."
Yeah, hi, Finney. He goes, "You know what? Call me Finn."
So unlike you, I liked the end of the movie where everything kind of wrapped up nicely. You know,
really?
There's not going to be any second Black Phone 2. Because you can't do it again.
Yeah.
You know, there's nowhere you could go. It was a good closure for the villain, where they strangled with the Black Phone and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I did like it. There were the unanswered questions about the killer himself, like why was he crazy, stuff like that. But overall, I really did enjoy this film.
Yeah, I think it's a great film. I just don't think it's a great horror film, because I don't think in horror films you don't get better. You don't have a montage of getting better and getting stronger and coming into oneself and it ends on just a good note. No, it like Finney should have been eaten by a zombie there at the end. It should have popped out of the school wall, and or
maybe the grabber escapes and he goes on to keep terrorizing like a different neighborhood in the Black Phone 2.
Yes,
or something like
there
that,
you go.
you know?
Or like he looks up, like he goes, "Call me Finn," and he looks up at the teacher, and the teacher's wearing that mask. I don't know. I'm joking, of course.
Just the top part or the bottom part.
Yes. Of course, I'm joking, but that's how horror films are supposed to end. But again, this is a great film. It would have ruined it if it ended that way. And I agree. Yeah. So I mean, again, it was good to have closure. It was good because this is when there's children involved, especially, you want closure, and you wanted these two siblings to be reunited again, and you were happy for Finney.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.